do you know about Zone 414? My city of robots. My androids. Companionship is rare these days.
Not my kind of place.
The task is my daughter, Melissa. 3 weeks ago, she went missing. I need you to retrieve her for me. And when you get there, find Jane. She might be my best creation. So unique.
Welcome to the zone.
You helped me find Melissa. So you're a friend of hers, right?
I don't need any more trouble.
What kind of trouble?
Hello, Jane.
Someone wants to kill me.
Don't move!
Someone's been stalking Jane.
I appreciate the fact that Jane is your tour guide. Don't trust her. Vit is paying you to find the girl. Find the girl. Get your money and leave.
You look, but you do not see. They can feel pain, you know, in their own way. They scream. I said don't move!
You have a murderer in the zone.
Stay right there. What's more human than fear?
How are you, mate?
Good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm in Dublin, and the weather's pretty good here. So, which seems to be a rare thing. So, I'm
That's
doing
good.
all right. Where are you based?
Outside of Chicago.
Oh wow! So Chicago, yeah. It's funny. My daughter just flew through there on the way to Dublin. I've stopped over many times there, but I've never actually been out in the city. Isn't that crazy? So.
Yeah, well, you should come out sometime. It's a fun place.
Yeah, for sure, man. You got a good show. I liked your. I was just about to listen to the interview you did with Martin Campbell. I haven't listened yet.
Oh, okay, great, thanks. Yeah, no, that was a fun one. Martin's been one of my favorite directors for a long time. I mean, few people could say that they jump-started two different Bond franchises.
I know he's a super director, you know, and that last movie he did with Jackie Chan and Pierce Brosnan, I tell you, he pulled off a miracle there, because I thought that was going to be a stinker, and
Yeah,
it did really, you know, he's a really, really good director, and the guy who wrote the Protege, Richard Wenk, I know, and I've had some collaborations with him, so he's a very good writer, you know. So
yeah, I'm eager to see the Protege.
Yeah, I haven't seen it myself yet, but I was just super impressed. Yeah, I remember I saw GoldenEye when it came out, when Pearce was in that, and which was a big deal for an Irish guy to play Bond, and he did very good. He was really good. I think he was a really good Bond, you know. Because I was
Yeah, he
talking
was.
to Pearce recently about another project, and we talked about that a little bit, and then, you know, very shrewd, because he built quite a good career off the back of post Bond. You know, he had a very good business partner, you know, who unfortunately died. Yeah, and yeah, I'll check it out when it comes out. I was really impressed though with The Foreigner, because I was like, I don't know, that nobody can make this thing work, and
Right.
so, you know, and it was good, you know. He's and then of course Casino. My brother's a big film editor. He's my half brother. His name's Stuart Baird, pretty famous kind of film editor, and he did Superman and Omen at the start of his career, which really kind of launched him.
Wow.
Yeah. Actually, unfortunately, Dick Donner just died. I don't know if you know that.
Yes.
And they were gearing up to do Lethal Weapon 5.
Right.
That was the plan. And I think it's still going to get done, but yeah. Anyway, he was 91. Anyway, Stuart, my half brother, kind of worked a lot with him, and Dick put him under his wing and sponsored him to go to America and all of that.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that you were related to Stuart. I've seen his name.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know how many movies.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because we have the same dad, you know, but same British father. And I grew up in Ireland and then left Ireland when I was about 27 and went to Eastern Europe, worked for Roger Corman. Wow. I didn't go to Eastern Europe to make a movie for Roger, but when I got there, there was a movie there that he wanted me to make, and which never happened. But I spent about 6 months trying to make it happen for him. And then I went to America when I was 30, back in 2006, and I've been there ever since. And you know, but Stuart started under our uncle Roy, who's a really cool British film producer. And he worked with Ken Russell, and he was a brilliant AD, and then became a kind of line producer, and then a producer. And he worked with Ken Russell and the Who. He didn't actually do Tommy. They had a fight over Tommy, but he did The Devils, which, you know, I eventually got to see The Devils in the silent movie theater on Fairfax back in 2016. You know, that's how long it took for me to see that movie, because it's been banned in the US ever since it was made. But, yeah, they won't release it. Anyway, he did loads of cool movies with Ken Russell, and he did If, and with Lindsay Anderson, and he did brilliant British movies. Funny thing is, though, he kind of retired by the time I started. And Stuart was in America, and we weren't close because he was always in America. So I had family members who were very successful in the movie business, and I'm in a little village in Ireland. But as I'm growing up, you know, as I'm in my teenage years, it's funny, the way I got to see Lethal Weapon, which Stuart cut with Dick Donner, which kind of gave him another big launch into big kind of action movies in Hollywood. I saw on a bootleg version out of the back of a truck that this guy used to drive around in the Irish countryside. When was that? 87. So yeah. That's how I saw Lethal Weapon, along with a whole bunch of other. I saw so many movies that way, you know. Yeah. Because it was hard back then to get movies. Ireland was such a small little place, and it's only in the 90s that it started to kind of come up. So it cost a lot of money, for the video stores to buy these cop movies, you know. So it'd be very hard to get one. You know, you'd have to wait. So they started this quite a big bootleg sort of business in movies, you know, back then. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I never even thought about it, 'cause it's like here in America, I grew up at a time where all that stuff was just instantly released on cassette. And from there, I went to Laserdisc, from there, DVD, et cetera. But I really grew up in a sweet time, because for once, when you saw a movie in a theater, it wasn't just a random thing. Like, we had cable, you know, that came out, you know, and so you could see all these movies that you'd never seen before. It was like having a film festival in your home.
Yeah. It was, you know, like, actually, and I have to say, man, and then I watched the David Duchovny show that you did about his music. Loads of these actors are musicians too. Like, Guy's a musician, pretty serious musician. I didn't know until I worked with him, or just before I worked with him. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah. So it's funny, when I went, I've been in the US for 15 years in California, and I was based in Venice for like 13 years. Yeah. And now I got a sailboat in the marina, and I got a place out in Palm Springs. But nice. I remember when Californication came out. Right. That was a show, I think, that juiced up Venice, you know, because Venice got destroyed over Google and shit. But it was such a great show, and people had told me about the show. I think it'd been on a few seasons by the time I got to see it, but it was a brilliant show. One of those incredible one of those great, one of the great California television shows. There's no television series. And then when he was on your show, I said, oh, what's he up to these days? Actually, he was actually going to do a movie with a buddy of mine. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but the show he's doing now with Showtime with the Peanut, I know one of the producers of Peanut Butter Falcon. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I hear it's fantastic. But
yeah.
So the show that he's doing with those guys sounds absolutely fantastic, where he's going to be a stuntman. He's got 3 wives out in the Joshua Tree, and it's like it's going to be another great show.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know,
it makes me want to read his novel.
I didn't even know he wrote books.
I know that's kind of a new thing too. He's got like 5 of them now. He's really become a renaissance man.
Yeah, because I wasn't a fan at all of the X-Files. It's weird. Right. I don't know. I don't watch Star Wars. I wasn't really into Twin Peaks. I'm a bit of a weirdo. I don't know. And it's like, but the Californication show was just a phenomenal. But it just kind of hit at a time where Venice was. It just captured Venice in a great way. And then, unfortunately, another show came out on Venice set in Venice a few years later called Flaked, which is an absolute dreadful show.
I haven't even heard of it.
Will Arnett, it just was not a good show. And that's when, but the thing is, it captured the way Venice had turned into this kind of tech, Google, nerdy place. It's unfortunate. Venice is like my American home, and it's like, they kind of messed it up, but it's cool because I'm here in this place I'm in now is called Windmill Lane in Dublin, and I posted all of Zone there, and I'm here doing another movie, and I worked here a long time ago. I learned post here, and it's a pretty kind of famous post house because U2 recorded all their first albums here. And they used to be down on the Quays in Dublin, but they moved into another building about 10 years ago. So Windmill Lane was a real kind of cutting edge sort of music recording studio. And then it opened up a kind of a post-production house where they did a lot of TV commercials. And then when the music videos came in, MTV started, Windmill started doing a bunch of music videos. And so U2's first videos were made here, and then loads of others. And it's just a great place. And I've been really lucky to do both the Zone and now this new movie, which we won't talk about yet. We'll talk about it when it comes. Next year.
Well, we'll probably tease people a little bit with it, but
okay.
You don't mind if all this is in there, right? Because we've been going on for like 15 minutes already, so I kind of like the interplay, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's talk a bit about Zone 414, which is coming out September 3rd. I don't know. I know in the States it's coming out September 3rd. On video on demand and in select theaters. How did you get involved in Zone 414, and what can you tell us about what the film's plot without, I guess, giving away too much?
Sure. It's interesting that several journalists have called it Zone 414. I call it Zone 414, but you can call it whatever you like because now it's somebody else's, It's the public. Well, it's about to be the public's, and you interpret any way you want. It's cool. But how I got it was ICM sent me the script. The writer had seen a music video I'd made for The Weeknd called Kissland. It was off his debut album. Mm-hmm. And it was a long, like an 8-minute video that it was like quite an adult version of like a kind of 8-minute slice of Blade Runner, and he really liked that, and so I read the script and I just loved it. I mean, I thought, this is definitely, because I'd been dabbling with other scripts for several years beforehand, and but when I read this, I was like, this is the one to do. And then so began a 5-year process of packaging it and going through various financiers and cast, et cetera. It was very difficult to get together, but once it came together, it was just it was a terrific experience. And it was, by the time I got to shoot it, I'd spent almost 25 years in film, both as an art director and then as a director. And I'd done so much work that, making it was easy. Getting to that point was really, really hard. But once you kind of broke through with the cat to get Guy to play the lead and Travis and Matilda, and then we had like 8 or 9 other fantastic character actors in the movie. Great crew. We went to Belfast. I'd never been to Belfast. We were going to go to Serbia, and we went to Belfast, and I was like, how are we going to make a science fiction movie in Belfast? And it worked out really good. Yeah.
What can you describe the plot to everyone to kind of give people a sense of what they're looking at?
Yeah, it's more noir than sci-fi. I've kind of pushed it more in that zone where it's like a very noir detective goes in to find a missing girl in this strange world, and the missing girl is the daughter of the guy who created this world of androids, and in that world he meets the kind of the poster, not the poster child, but the number one android that everybody wants, called Jane, and they form a relationship, and they kind of form a bond that kind of helps both of them kind of come to terms with who they are, and help each other kind of get through this these kind of low points in their lives. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's kind of a love story, but it's a relationship between these two, this guy and this kind of android, and it's almost like a fairy tale, a dark fairy tale. And they have to go on the hunt through this world to find this girl who was a good friend of Jane's, and she's and there's a lot more to it that goes on. Jane's been threatened, and there's a real threat in the zone, but it's very much kind of drawn from those pulp novels of would it be the 50s, so it's unavoidable to not be compared to Blade Runner, and which I suppose is almost suicidal, because a kamikaze mission, because it's such an iconic piece of work. And I was a big fan of Terry Gilliam when I was a kid, when I was younger anyway, and Brazil was more of an influence to me, to be honest, than Blade Runner ever as a young filmmaker. So, but Ridley Scott is we're very fortunate, actually. Our senior executive producer, who was instrumental in getting the film made, Mark Huffam, produces all of Ridley's work, and I was very and he's a Northern Irish guy, and he brought Game of Thrones into Belfast. He's a really serious, major producer, and he kind of supported Martin Brennan, who produced a movie with me and my manager Jib Polimus and Deborah Kolar, who actually kept the movie running with me when the original producer Evzen Kolar died. Evzen produced a whole bunch of movies back in the day. City of Industry was one I liked a lot with Harvey Keitel.
Yes.
Harvey Keitel was one of the many actors who we were, was interested in doing the movie at different stages. And I tell you, there's 2 hours of a program just about the casting of this movie,
That's pretty cool. That would have been an interesting take too. But Guy is really good in it, actually. I mean, he's good at pretty much anything. He just had a really interesting turn in the HBO series Mayor of Easttown with Kate Winslet, where he played basically what would typically be the female role, the character that is there for basically one reason, just to be somebody to play up against the hero of the, so it's kind of, I thought it was an interesting choice for somebody like Guy to take that role, because it's normally what most people would consider the throwaway role in a project, but he actually manages to do something with it even in his limited time. And somebody I've loved since, I think the first time I saw him in anything was LA Confidential.
Wow.
Which is weird because that was the first time I think I saw Russell Crowe. No, I'd seen Russell in Virtuosity with Denzel. That was the first one. And honestly, when I think about Russell, I still haven't seen Romper Stomper. Some of these guys like Tim Roth and Gary Oldman, I haven't seen some of their very first films.
You should see Sid and Nancy that Gary.
Oh no, I've seen Sid and Nancy. Yeah. Sid and Nancy. Sid and Nancy was a movie I watched on cable all the time. I've got the Criterion of it, but I just saw I'm following an '80s cinema group on Facebook, and somebody posted a poster of a film Alfred Molina, Tim Roth, and Gary Oldman were in. Wasn't Prick Up Your Ears. It was something by Mike Leigh, I believe, that I never even heard of.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
And it's like, I still have all these gaps, it's like I as I get older, I start worrying I'm never going to see everything I want to see, especially when I decide to watch The Godfather, Blade Runner, and Apocalypse Now, 100 times, again and again and again. Because,
Sure. I mean, there's so much work out there. There's so much. Yeah. And it depends where you are, I mean, like a lot of, I don't know, in America, I suppose there was a lot of there's a lot of, not European, but a lot of foreign or global cinema that still isn't available in the United States. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, but I grew up on American movies, So.
Yeah. That was one thing that we always have been good with is exporting entertainment. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Zone 414, as we shall now call it. What was the process of making it like? How long did you have? What kind of budget range did you have? And once you did settle into film, what was that whole experience like?
Right. Let me see. We had a very prudent budget. I'll just say it was under $10 million, and but I have to say, it's considerably less expensive shooting in Europe than the United States, which I kind of discovered really on the last movie because I was doing commercials in the United States before then, and so. Like say 10 million in Europe is worth about 20 in the United States. It'd be worth about 30 in Eastern Europe. So, that's how productions choose their locations, and then there's tax rebates, etc. The infrastructure in Belfast. The funny thing is we shot this movie where they did Game of Thrones, and that's where originally was the shipbuilding of the Titanic. So they turned the Titanic shipbuilding, whatever yard, whatever you call it, into a studio, and that's where we made it. And there was a long run-in time. I mean, I storyboarded the whole movie. I can draw. As I said, I used to be an art director, but also was a storyboard artist for a bit, and I can draw. But Zone is like a graphic novel. Brian Hill, who wrote the script, is a really I'm a big fan of his screenplays. I mean, I've read 2 of them. There's another one he has that I'm pretty anxious to do when the time is right. And but he's written every type of comic book, all the major comics. He's written on them, and he's adapting some big. I think he's doing the Power Rangers. Whatever. He's doing the script for the new Power Rangers movie. He's doing another big comic book movie. So I had it all storyboard. I had done a lot of visual research, etc. And I got to work with a DP that I'd worked with a long time ago, a brilliant guy called James Mather, who actually who'd co-directed a movie with his buddy, Steve St. Ledger, called Lockout, the guy did back in 2010, I think, in Serbia.
Okay.
And that Luc Besson financed. And so James was great. James is a really good filmmaker. I mean, he's a unique kind of cat in Ireland because he's very much an American mentality. He also has a slice of European. He's an Irish DP, but he stayed primarily working in this market, and he's just really good. And so I collaborated with him, and then I had a great production designer who was a really established set decorator, but our budget was small, and it was a great opportunity. He'd done one other movie called Vivarium. That was another Irish movie that Jesse Eisenberg was in, and Imogen Poots. And anyway, Philip Murphy's his name, and he excelled. He did a brilliant job. Everyone did. I mean, we had great crew. You know, it was a great. Every department in the area had endless creative opportunity, but obviously they had to make it work within pretty stringent financial constraints. We did we shot about 5 weeks. We prepped about hard 5 weeks. We soft prepped for probably another 5 weeks before that. We did a long which most movies did. We did about 8 months of post, a lot of visual effects. But of course, you know, as I said, it was all great and fun, but all that stuff was fairly straightforward for me. The trick was to just cast it really well and honor the script, you know, and be, you know, so the casting was massive for me, you know, and it was great, and I really went for it, and I'm really proud of the cast that we got. And there was just great characters in the piece, you know, and we still had to draw from Northern Irish, British, and Irish talent, which is super talent anyway. There's great film actors, particularly in Ireland. Like in the last 20 years, they're really brilliant. Like yeah, I mean, it was the only one who was really American in the movie was Matilda, who's actually Italian, you know, but also American. She's not Italian American. She's born in Italy, but her dad is Italian. Her dad is American, and I believe her mom's Italian. Yeah, and there was a huge casting circus that went on, like massive. You know, I don't know if I get into it. It's just it went on and on and on, and but once we kind of locked in on the lead, you know, and Guy playing David, everything. Well, I mean, we had Matilda beforehand. At one stage, it was fun. A funny thing is Guy was kind of like edging to play David, and then that didn't work out because he was going to make another film. And then Travis came in, and he was going to play David, and that was looking good. Travis is brilliant, by the way. I love Travis. We did this new movie together as well. Sorry, this is the new movie, so I should not confuse the audience. But we did another film that'll be out next year, and so we got Matilda after Travis. Then we got Guy. The thing was, Guy was going to play Travis's role, and Travis was going to, and then they swapped. So there was a swap, and schedule and all this stuff, and it really worked out. You know, I mean, it just goes to show you, it's filmmaking, and it's like filmmaking is like building a house. You know what I mean? It's like many things can change as it goes along, and the script is the blueprint, which is essential, but it's not the house. And you know, things are good. You have to be open to things changing. Like I wanted to go to Serbia to use all the brutalist architecture. And we even planned to do a couple of second unit days there just to get that architecture. But I was so impressed, and we got so much out of Belfast that because Belfast was quite, you know, Belfast had all its trouble for decades. So it was quite a militarized. It had been quite militarized, and there was a lot of walls, big walls, and brutalist socialist architecture built. So it worked out very well. And when we put the drone up, and I was amazed at some of the stuff that the drone guys got. So it was just the shooting, the making of Zone was just a really enjoyable experience, you know. I mean, but I suppose because it was so painful to get it out the gate, and it took so long, and it collapsed several times, and we'd had so many different initial casts and finance packages and locations, and then of course Evson, our original producer, died, and oh god, it was and we were so lucky then to get it in the can just before COVID hit. So
yeah,
you know, so
well, so you're saying that you mostly live in California, but because you were filming in Belfast and you got it done in Belfast before COVID hit, and you were planning on doing posts there, you've been there since because of COVID.
Let me see. I went from LA to Belfast in November, I think, of 2019, and you know, and then we wrapped Zone at the end of, it was at the start of February 2020, and then I went back to LA for a break, and then I went to Dublin, and that's when COVID hit.
Okay.
And then, but I was traveling back and forth to LA all the way through. And then, of course, after we wrapped the post, which was September, the movie was wrapped. Last September, we wrapped. We completed post production on Zone, but then it goes through a big quality control process, and then the marketing has to work out a campaign, and you know, it's sold all over the world, so it's getting released all over the world, and Paramount are releasing it under Saban in the US, and then Universal have it for a big chunk of the rest of the world. So
okay,
we've got a couple of Rogers and Cowan are doing the marketing in the US, and Universal have their own marketing department internationally. So it's getting a pretty sizable push for a modest independent movie, and but then I was back, and we spent about 6 months or more in California, and then I went to Thomasville, and then I shot the other movie in Georgia. But so
Georgia in the States, or Georgia?
Yes, yeah. So in the last year and a half, you know, I've just about done about 50-50 between the US and Europe, something like that.
I wasn't sure because you were mentioned you're doing post on your next film there too. So
yeah.
I wasn't sure if you just kind of got stuck there ever since the filming or something.
No, I was never. You see, I'm very fortunate because I'm an American citizen and an Irish citizen. So I was able to travel, and I was careful, and you know.
Yeah.
I just got. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's a difficult time for sure. I mean.
Yeah, it sure has been, you know, and you know, I just the DP I've just been working with just said a friend of his died from COVID, and an Italian director. My DP's Italian on the other film, and a good friend of ours in California just got it, and she's 68 and she's not vaccinated. And I tell you what, I went back to LA at the end of June, and I went out to Palm Springs. I was going to get vaccinated in Cedars-Sinai. That's the hospital where both my kids were born, and I was racing to Cedars. I'm like ready, because I love that hospital. It's a great hospital, to get Johnson & Johnson. And I went out to Palm Springs, and I was just getting a checkup, you know, and the nurse said, well, just go down to the convention center. You can get whatever you want. I go down to the convention center, and you get any vaccination you wanted. Boom, boom, boom. And I got Johnson. I was so happy, because Ireland in June, it was still very slow. Yeah. We got back here in March, and it was lockdown, and it was tough, you know. It has been kind of tough. The last chunk of COVID for me has been the hardest.
Okay.
So, but I've been very lucky, you know, my family are okay. We're all vaccinated except my son, who's only 8. And I've been working, you know, I've made 2 movies through the pandemic, you know? So, So, yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about, I guess, what were the significant moments during filming for you? Was there anything that that you would, things always change during filming. You can storyboard it, you can have all the weeks of prep, you want, but was there anything significant that once you got to filming changed dramatically from what you had planned to what you were able to do once you were on location?
Well, simple answer to that is no, nothing changed dramatically. But the big trick with making movies that I've learned is versus short form, which I kind of come from videos and commercials, and then I do come from, like, I've done movies as a production designer before and stuff like that. But as a filmmaker, to kind of move into the world of like being a director, filmmaker, the trick is obviously the material is very important, like kind of how you work that, whether you work with a writer or you develop yours, whatever it is. But the real trick is the talent. That is the trick. And these movies get made because of who's in them, and that's the model. It's pretty much goes without saying for any commercial movies that you've got to have stars or name actors in these movies, because they have value. And our model on the last two and on the next two is pre-sales, foreign pre-sales. So but what I learned was I love these actors. I mean, I really love them. They're all like kids, and the stars are almost like infants, and it's like they're very fragile and they're doing something that's very kind of, they need to really feel secure and safe. And for when you haven't made a movie before and you're talking to, look, I mean, I talked to so many actors before I got to our current lineup, which is by far, we kind of went up and up and up, because we had to, because to finance the film, we had to like step it up. And it's like, no, you need bigger names.
Yeah.
And, but talking to Guy, I remember the first time I talked to Guy on the phone, it was just great. We just hit it off, and it was just a wonderful conversation. He's like a master film actor. I mean, he's a master and I'm a novice. Yeah. But it just wasn't like, there was when on that first call, it was just easy, it just flowed, and we were actually talking about him playing the other role, Marlon V, but Guy can play anything, he's just one of those kind of actors. And then it worked out that Travis, the availability was an issue, and he was a brilliant actor too, really courageous, daring actor. And, I ended up having Guy as the lead in my first movie, but then then I suppose it's like, okay, now he's playing the lead and he's got this novice director and he shows up and in Belfast, and he hadn't been, his wife, his partner, Carice, who he has a child with now, was, in Game of Thrones. So she knew Belfast and knew the studio quite well. So, but he hadn't been there before, and he wanted to test me. So we got into rehearsals with him and Matilda and myself, and we had a couple of heated discussion. But the cast did. We had rehearsals. Everyone was on the rehearsals, and after a few days, it was like really good. And by the end of the first week, it was fantastic. Yeah. And I just, even when it was heated or, it's like anything, you don't do good work, creative work, if it's all la-di-do-di-da and everyone's happy and it's all breezy. Because I think good creativity kind of comes through, a kind of a storm, and but I just felt, God, I really like working with these actors. And it wasn't just Guy, Travis, Matilda, who are our core name above title actors. Right. Then we had a brilliant guy, Johnny Ayres, who's also one of our key names on the film, who played Joseph. And then we had Ned Dennehy, Fionnuala Flanagan came in for a day. Colin Salmon is a great, now I'm going to have to mention them all. Johannes. Anyway, there's so many great actors. They're all bloody great. And it was really cool because each day or each week, whatever, it was like, hey, I'd kind of be like, so what do you think of that? I'd say to guys, so what do you think of Johnny? Or, oh, you're great. It's great to see, because you could see that all the talent were like carefully chosen and really, really talented people, man. And so that's a great, so then I knew, like I was saying to my manager, Jib, it's like, you know, I really can work with these guys. And, you know, and then very quickly I assembled another really good cast on the next film. And that is the thing for me then. It's like, but you slowly get to work the material more as well. And that's where the great enjoyment is with the talent, with the actors, the cast, and the material. And then all the technical stuff, it's just great to get great people, HODs, and let them do their thing. And if they go off the thing, you just slide, but they do that stuff, you know. It's like, you know, but the thing is, the same with cast. Being a director of a film, the trick is cast it right in front of and behind the camera, and then shut up and let these great people do their thing. Because if you've cast it right, there should be a synergy. And then a lot of Zone was just observe and just let them all play. You know what I mean? And you know, it was just really good. And I'm very fortunate to get to do this. It took a long time, but once I kind of cracked that egg or whatever, it's starting to open up quite well.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's and the film's really cool. Actually, I definitely dug it. I did want to ask one question. When you decided to become a director, you started doing commercials and videos and stuff, and I had heard this thing where basically somebody said that if you don't like being asked a million questions, don't become a director. Is that kind of what it's like? Basically, just like you have to answer each department head and this and that. Is it basically just managing it's basically managing everyone, even though your focus, most people think, is on what's being shot at that moment, but there's, you know, you're still getting hit with, you know, what's happening tomorrow, what's happening next week, you know, and all that stuff. Is that basically
it's like being in a war, you know. It's it's a creative war, but the enemy is time and money, you know. Right. So, and you gotta have answers right away, all the time. And if you don't know, well, even if you're not sure, you know, you need to give the impression that you're sure, you know. You need to show confidence, and I just love doing it. So it's funny, the way it's been for me has been pre-production and shooting has always been easy, you know. For me, being on a set with 10 people on a small job, or 150 people on a movie, or whatever it is, you know. Right. It's all, the more the merrier, to be quite honest with me. And the more cameras I have, the better, you know, because it's all about logistics and planning. And that's where the whole Ridley Scott School of Filmmaking is, for sure, you know. But Terry Gilliam was the same. He was a storyboard guy, storyboarded everything, could do it himself, was an art director like Ridley, the whole lot. So that's very much like the school of filmmaking that I come from. Right. That I, you know, from, you know. But then the very first movie I worked on when I was 17 was a movie with Mia Farrow called Widow's Peak in Ireland. And there was this British director who actually knew my uncle, called John Irvin, who did great movies. He did movies. He did Hamburger Hill. He did Hamburger with Evson, you know. He did about 40 movies, you know. And but same with and then Martin Campbell, who is really, like, I just, not that I followed this guy, but he's just a really good film director, you know.
Good inspirations, good directing heroes.
Yeah, they're real directors. They're not like auteurs, you know, floating around like drinking coffee and maybe make a movie every 5 years with a trust fund. They're like real active, serious generals of filmmaking, and they get it done, and they get it done well, and they get it done on time and on budget. And And obviously, the top of the food chain there would be someone like Ridley Scott. Terry Gilliam is in his own. I mean, look at Ridley's just done the last Duel shut down. He was doing it in Dublin, restarted that. He what was the one with Kevin Spacey that nearly went down the toilet?
All the Money in the World.
The guy's like he is the.
Well, he's got 2 movies coming out this fall.
He's done Gucci. He's gone off to do Napoleon. You know, he's doing them all. And so look, he's the man. You know, and and he just. Because he did spend years in between each movies and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, why? And that's why as soon as I got Zone and I felt I've got a flavor with these actors and, you know, I know the rest of it, I want to keep going. So that's why I have 3 and 4 lined up already. And 2 is
good.
At the end of post, in about 2 more months of post. But sorry, so the pre and the shooting were kind of, okay, that's kind of fun. The trick for me was in the very beginning and at the very end, or say the editorial and the material, you know? So the development of the material or the getting it to a shooting draft. So the trick is either find a script that's really nearly there, which is kind of what I did with the first 2 movies. With this 3rd movie I'm moving into, I did a lot of work on the script and I actually, you know, so I'm getting a lot more confidence there. When I came into the edit of Zone, I was freaked out because it's like movies, any piece of film work can disappear in the edit. You know, it can go a good, you know. So the editorial was where you do the last bit of writing. So it's actually the writing, you know, elements that came later. And I'm a little dyslexic, so it's hard for me to write. And I write with pictures, obviously, much easier, and drawings and things. Mm-hmm. But I'm becoming a better filmmaker by doing. Yes. And it's like John Huston say, all the work. I'm not comparing myself to John Huston.
No, I get that.
These guys back in the day were banging out like 2-3 movies a year. You know what I mean, or whatever it is. And like Steven Spielberg had a 7-year TV contract with Universal, banging the stuff out. You know, that's how. It's like, you know, could you imagine being a car mechanic and you've never really worked on a car, but you've read a lot of books about it, and then suddenly you're given like a Ferrari and it's like, go fix the engine. It's like, and then the critics are like, he really blew that one. He really blew. Well, how about he worked on a Dacia, you know? You know, and it's begin there. So, and that just one thing which has changed because, you know, Terry Gilliam came from animation and then it was Monty Python. So he had his own unique road. But Ridley Scott came from like so many advertising, you know? Mm-hmm. But advertising now, in my experience, is back then Ridley Scott was making, you know, little films and he was the autonomy and he was asked to do them and he did them, you know? Right. Now it's such a committee that to call yourself a film director from being a commercial director is ridiculous because it's, and particularly an American commercial is really directed by about 20 people. So, right. And, you know, it's not, in my opinion, a great ground to come from for I mean, you get to shoot things, but I mean, I think now with technology, you can go and make feature films for $25,000, you know, with an iPhone, easy, you know, and because, you know, that's how you learn from doing it, you know, and then, you know, it really is like with any other profession or any other craft that the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And if you're talented, you're going to get exponentially better. And, you know, I do find it strange that I heard a podcast last night with Neil Jordan, my cameraman, recommended. I heard, with Roger Deakins. Yeah, Roger Deakins doing a podcast at the moment with his wife. And
they were he was talking to Neil Jordan.
Yeah. Actually, I was very lucky. Jim Sheridan helped me with this new movie and he gave me a few tips on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because he was in here doing a documentary on a French lady who was murdered in the west of Ireland a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
And he's amazing. Him and Neil Jordan are the Irish film directors of note. And there's one other guy that's come out called Lenny Abrams, who's really fantastic. He did Room, but there's not a lot that have really broken through yet. But what was I saying? Anyway, Neil had mentioned a movie called Shirley, I think it was called. And I thought, oh, that's a really distinctive movie. And then you check out the girl. You check out you check out the female filmmaker, and she's done loads of films before, so she's learned her thing. Like the Safdie brothers, I saw Good Time on the plane back to LA last summer, and that's what prompted me to do this new movie. And the Safdies are extraordinary, but they honed their skills over 10 years of short films and low budget feature films, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So when you see that breakout movie often, at the festivals, or it gets into Sundance, like the Shirley movie, it's like, oh my God. And there's a lot of new filmmakers out there who think that their first movie has to be that, but they don't realize that, no, you should do half a dozen shorts, and you should be doing low budget features and whatever it is,
Yeah.
Because it all plays in, because it's such a massive craft and skill, filmmaking,
Yeah.
So, I think Zone, I'm very proud of it. And I think it's a wonderful example of my ability to direct a movie that's very complex and really ambitious. And then, with the new movie, you move in and you get more of a handle, and you maybe author it even further. And, and then I have a third movie that's authored even more, and it's a process, it's a journey, it's not, and I just think, I know you haven't even asked me this, and I go on a bit, but if a new filmmaker is trying to make a movie, don't try and make the perfect movie. Just get out there and do it, because I would have done this movie, and there was times where I considered doing this for $500,000 if that's what I had to do, to get it done. And so it's not about making the perfect piece of creative work. It's about just doing it. And as you do it, as you said, Brett, so many things change and morph and alter, and Serbia becomes Northern Ireland, and Travis Fimmel becomes Guy Pearce, and Harvey Keitel goes away, or whatever it is. And it's and every actor brings their own take on a character. It doesn't completely, every director brings their own take on a film, every cameraman, every cinematographer, So but I do love the collaboration with everyone. I mean, and then you just, as I said, growing up, watching movies on video, I really love genre movies, and it's like, okay, and that's what Jim Sheridan, not that he does genre movies, but he's a great storyteller. Right. So it's like my challenge now as a filmmaker is to improve as a storyteller, constantly with each film, like to really kind of, find the ways to really, because I know all the tools, but it's how do you utilize those tools to really like tell the most engaging stories, So, definitely. And I think we've done quite a solid job with Zone. I'm quite proud of it, It's pretty good as my first film, and I'm after such a long journey, I'm just really grateful that such a sizable infrastructure is kind of come behind it to put it out there into the world,
Definitely. Well, I know you have to wrap up very shortly because you have work to do on the new film. But for a final question, can you tease us a little bit about the new film? It's called, you said, One Way? Hello?
Yeah, sorry. Hold on one sec, Brett. The internet was getting shaky.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I can hear you now.
So you want to tease on the next film?
It's called One Way.
Yeah, it's a crime movie set on a bus with Machine Gun Kelly, Kevin Bacon, Travis Fimmel, and they're all super. Colson Baker is Machine Gun Kelly. That's his, super young actor, very talented guy. but we have this African-American actress called Storm Reid, who I'm about to do ADR with, and she's going to win an Oscar, man. Not for this movie, but down the road. And we've Drea de Matteo's in it. Reese Corio from Entourage did a role. Who else? We got Thomas Francis Murphy, Megan Holder, like great cast. And it's a grungy, dark, noir crime movie. I'm extremely proud of it. It was brutal to make it in the height of COVID in freezing Thomasville, Georgia. And some really ballsy people like went down the road to get this movie made, because we lost finance, big chunks of finance at the last minute, and people came in. So Saban also came in on One Way, and we Thomasville Pictures, and lots of other production companies and producers were involved. And my same core team were on it, Jib and Martin, and just, you know, it's very hard film to make, but I'm enormously proud of it. And it'll be out October 2022 in the US. So
great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me wrap up by saying, you know, number one, thank you for taking the time, Andrew. Zone 414 is being released September 3rd in select theaters and on video on demand. So you'll be able to get it on pretty much anywhere. If you decide, if it's not playing in your hometown, you can just go on and check it out on, you know, on whatever you use, Vudu or whatever, Apple, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
It'll be there for you to check out and watch. It's a very compelling, interesting noir film with sci-fi elements. It's a really good film. Guy Pearce is very good in it, and I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, what you have next. I'm very eager, and hopefully we can talk about that next year when it comes out.
Absolutely, man. And as I said, man, the show is really, you're getting great guests. So I was pretty cool to be asked, you know.
No, I appreciate it. I like talking to people, you know, doing interesting things and coming up and putting out interesting projects. And this was definitely one that, you know, I was really intrigued about when I saw it. And, you know, so I was very happy when it turned out to be as good, if not better, than I expected it to be. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Can't ask for more than that.
No. Well, you have a great rest of your day. Continued good luck, and we'll talk again some other time.
All right, mate. Take care.
Take care. All right. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.